All right, we are live at the Sound Exchange in Parkersburg, West Virginia. We are here with Mr. Elmer Gorelli, the face who runs the place. Welcome in, Mr. Elmer. How are you doing today, sir?
Pretty good. I'm really happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you, not only coming on the podcast, but, we've been friends for a long time, and it's nice to sit down and kind of catch up with Talk Shop a little bit.
Yes.
We're here mostly to talk about Record Store Day. We're not going to get into a lot of bells and whistles. We're mostly here to talk about the list. We're going to kind of break down the list. Out of all the years that I've been participating in Record Store Day, this is definitely the one that I'm most excited about. This has the most stuff. I have a page and a half, almost 2 full pages full of stuff that I really want for my collection. So this is a big year for me. So we're going to be doing a top 5 list. We're going to do all of the high fidelity, and we're going to go through and do our top 5s. I'll start with 5, then you go 5, then 4, then 4, and so on. And we're going to let the people in the world vote who had the better top 5 list. And then in a few days, we're going to actually have a live stream on YouTube where we're going to open it up, the phone lines, and take calls and talk about what you guys are looking forward to most on Record Store Day. But for now, got a few questions for you. First question I have for you is, how long have you been working here at the Sound Exchange?
Well, I originally, 2 decades this year. Wow. I started in 2004, essentially just a nerd who knew a lot about music. Essentially just somebody with a good memory who needed to put that to use. And I had a friend who worked here at the time, and she had my job back then. So as manager, she told me when she needed to hire somebody, and I had told her I absolutely wanted the job because I wanted to put that knowledge to use. And it took a lot of bugging her, but eventually I got the job.
Wait, how long has the Sound Exchange been open for?
Sound Exchange originally opened on Southside in 1990. Joe Davis and Todd Stubbe opened it up right out of college from Ohio State. And they, within a year, had expanded and opened this store, and it became the flagship store. They put a lot of effort into this place over the years.
This is the store that I remember going to as a kid. My very first trip to Parkersburg that I remember, I was young, I bought my very first cassette here. Back there to the right, 10,000 Maniacs doing Because the Night on MTV Unplugged.
Oh, that's a good one.
And my brother bought a Marilyn Manson CD. And I remember the car ride home, my dad was making remarks that we were listening to like satanic music, and that because he thought 10,000 Maniacs, well, that sounds even crazier than Marilyn Manson. I was like, Dad, it's Natalie Merchant, and I mean, she may go barefoot on stage, but I mean, that's about as hardcore as she gets. I mean, she may not shave her pits anymore, I don't know. Yeah, and I think my very first CD I ever bought was at Farmore in the mall.
Oh,
it may have been here, but the one that I remember was Get a Grip, Aerosmith, Farmore in the mall. I even remember the way that place smelled. It smells the same as this place has always smelled. Like you walk in and you get that sense of nostalgia. So I have fond memories of this place, and my friend Julie Hapney, who is now out in LA doing big things, working on a show on HBO Max, and has worked with Tom Savini, and I hope to have her as a guest at one point. She worked here.
I took her job.
You took her.
She was leaving. That's when Melissa told me there would be an opening, was when Julie left.
Wow. So I'd love to have Julie on the podcast because she's done some amazing things, and she is a former local. But getting back to you, my biggest question that I've always wanted to ask you is, what is the coolest thing that's ever been traded in?
Now that's tough, because there's been a lot of trade-ins over a lot of years. Yeah, that is a tough one, because we've had some really interesting stuff. There was this guy years ago. It was probably, if you took the moment that vinyl started coming back, that people don't realize because they didn't notice until it had been going on for 5 years.
Right.
If you took the moment that vinyl started coming back and now, about halfway between them, there was a guy from out of town who just moved to the area who was bringing in 90s stuff. We were calling this guy 90s guy because for a while We just couldn't remember his name since he was so new.
I love how you
an out-of-towner.
Your customers' nicknames.
That's from Melissa. Melissa, she had colorful nicknames for almost every customer. So I haven't kept the tradition going as long as she did, but there's a couple people nicknames that carried over from her days. But this 90s guy, he just kept bringing in constant piles. I mean, it wasn't large trade-ins. It wasn't like an entire crate of records, but he would bring in maybe half a dozen at a time, up to about 10, and it would just be original press 90s stuff. And a lot of it, of course, sold. I know you got a few things. Marilyn Manson.
Guy. Okay, so yeah, Marilyn Manson, Mechanical Animals,
Yes.
first pressing, and the Nirvana,
So nice.
one of my favorite albums of all time, Nirvana Unplugged.
You got that. I couldn't remember who got that
And
one.
I promise you, the deal that you gave me on those is unmatched, and they are still in my collection. They're in the "They Will Be Buried with Me" section of my collection.
Oh, that's great. I'm glad you
I will
still got
never-
them.
Yes, as many things as I've sold, those are two that not only do I hold the memory fondly, and I tell the story every time anybody sees them, but I listen to them frequently, and it brings back, like I said, good memories of shopping here before I had my own spot. But yeah, that was definitely
That guy.
wild.
Oh, so much good stuff.
Yeah.
And there's a few things, obviously, working in a place like this as long as I have, you can imagine my collection gets too big.
Yeah.
Because stuff comes through. You know how this is.
You gotta reel it in.
You look at it and you're like, I need this, and then it keeps happening. But with 90s Guy, there were, of course, several things I had to get myself. There was an Alice in Chains self-titled, the Three-Legged Dog album. That's probably my favorite thing that guy traded in. What was the other one? The funniest one of the bunch was I'm a big fan of Beck's early stuff, and I forget what the first one was I ever heard, but One Foot in the Grave came out. It was really good, but most people know Mellow Gold.
Yeah.
I was expecting the guy to trade that in, but he never did. But he did trade in an original press Odelay, and that came out when I was in high school. I've still got my original CD, but the original press Odelay, at the time I thought, this has got to be a bootleg or something. This can't be a legit pressing. I pulled a bumper sticker out that said Bong Load Records, and I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. I stuck it on the counter because we have this growing mural of stickers on our counter. And that's the Wall of Lazy. But I stuck it on the counter, and then I looked it up on Discogs maybe a month later, and it was an original press, and then I just I should have left the sticker in there.
Yeah. All right, so bouncing off that question, the other thing I've always wondered, since I've never been to your place, your personal collection, and I know that you are like a big fan of The Cure, and a lot of the same things that I'm into, and a lot of our customers and listeners are into. Name a couple of your favorite pieces in your collection, your holy grails that you've been able to collect over the years, things that are going to go in your casket when it's time to go. Things that you're never going to sell.
It's so strange because a lot of the rarer stuff I have and I listen to fairly regularly, but they're not like my absolute favorites. Being just a nerd that's collected things forever, I tend to be a completist when there's a certain artist I love. I try to get everything I can by them. The bad part is the big three. My big three have been Prince, Bowie, and Springsteen. And when it comes to the Bowie and the Springsteen, it's not too bad. It didn't get too overboard. I've got everything I can get by them. That's not a big deal. But the Prince stuff, even before he passed, there was just so much stuff that I've had to eventually start slowing down on it. But the stuff that I would never part with, the stuff that just blows my mind that I have it and play it constantly, it's strange. It's stuff like Peter Murphy, who was the singer from Bauhaus. His solo stuff, I got into it years and years after I was really into vinyl, but when they started doing these represses of them, they became like the favorite pieces in my collection, even though they're not super rare, they're not very expensive. They did 6 reissues, and I said, I want to get all 6 of them, and of course, as you probably know, our wholesaler is not the most reliable, so it was extremely difficult. Even though these were new releases, these were things that you'd think a record store wouldn't have any trouble getting in, but yeah, it was quite a difficult task to complete that set within 6 months of them being issued. And those are ones that, I could never part with those.
My most expensive record in my collection is probably the Counting Crows, This Desert Life.
Oh, yeah.
I heard the tale that it's never been reissued because the masters got burned up in that LA warehouse fire. So there's never going to be a proper audiophile analog reissue. It could be digital, of course, but and it pushes over the $1,000 mark, which is just mind blowing to me, especially since the fourth side is just a etching. So it's quite rare. Do you have anything in your collection that reaches that pinnacle of how is this worth so much?
And it's a similar situation. Back in, God, I can't even remember what year it was, but it was before vinyl started coming back really big. There was a record that I just really wanted, and it wasn't readily available. It was the first album by the band Airborne Toxic Event. And
that's one of my favorite indie rock records.
Yeah, it just that whole I love everything they've ever done, but that first album was just start to finish fantastic. And the first pressing of that was just constantly back ordered. I could never get it in. And then I noticed a box set popped up of, at the time, everything they had released, plus like a bonus record. I think it was a live album, but I ordered it and it just never shipped. And I thought, well, that's just another one I'm going to have to chalk up to, I'm never going to get a copy of that. But eventually they shipped it, and it was it felt like almost a year later, and it came in and it was hand signed by the band, the box set on the front. Silver signatures, and I thought, there's no paperwork with this? What is the deal? So eventually, in the day and age of Discogs, when everyone was cataloging their stuff, I put it into Discogs and saw that it was pretty pricey. So I looked into it, and I guess what had originally happened is they released the box set, the band signed it, and before they could get them out to the wholesalers, there was a flood, and they all got ruined, and the band had to re-sign them when they remanufactured them. And that's why it took so long, and why there wasn't any sort of, they were supposed to be numbered, they weren't numbered.
They're just lucky to have it at all at that point. Now, the signatures, are they on just that album, or are they on the box?
They're on the box.
Okay, because I actually have that album autographed by the band. They signed
cool.
the cover. It was one of those, just I saw it on a Facebook auction, I bid on it, I won it.
Nice.
And I've had it now for just like a month or two in the collection. I've spun it, of course, but I didn't post a picture of it because I didn't think anybody else would know the band or care. So that's cool that we both have the same autograph. And, obviously, yours is on the box set that I didn't even know existed. So that's really cool. That album, when I was in a band, we used to cover 1 or 2 songs off that album just because it's so good. It's such a good record. So yeah, Airborne Toxic Event. I believe it's self-titled, that first one. So we're going to take a short little break, and then when we come right back, we are going to talk Record Store Day, the things that we're most excited for, our top 5 lists, and who knows what else. So we'll be back in just 1 minute. All right, we have just reached the 13-minute point in this interview, and now we're going to swing our way into the Record Store Day list.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so if you don't know what Record Store Day is, you've been under a rock. So Record Store Day basically is a day that they release a long list of special edition vinyl, CDs sometimes, and try to get people to go out and support their local record store, local music, things like that. And it comes at a hefty price tag, but it's a very fun day for everybody. So when we say, come and support our stores on Record Store Day, if you request things from our stores, like if you requested something from me, please get it from me, because we have to pay for these buddies out of pocket. Somebody told me the other day they thought Record Store Day sent us Record Store Day orders, we sell them, and then everything else gets sent back. That is not how Record Store Day works. We have to pay for these. Yes, I know, right? I was like, I wish I still had your like Outlook.
Yes.
No. That is not how it works. So basically, as a record store owner and a record store runner, we have to take this list and become mind readers and try to guess what we think our customers are really going to want. So we both open it up to our crowds on social medias to say, what do you want us to get? So if one person requests something, we're probably going to only get 1 or 2. If 10 people say, dude, Taylor Swift's got a new thing, we're going to get 10, 20, 30, whatever we can afford. So we have a lot of work. The list isn't just what we want. We have to try to buy for an entire community.
Yes.
And it's a lot of fun, but it's very, very scary.
Oh yeah.
I know my order ended up being over $7,000, and that's only with people's requests. That's not me going crazy and ordering things that I'm interested in. I did get a couple, but I didn't go as crazy as I wish I could afford to.
It's tough.
But yeah, I mean, it's a pretty big list. And like I said in the intro, this list is actually the best Record Store Day list since I started coming to Record Store Day. I think it was like 2013, 2014 maybe is when I really got into Record Store Day. And I've never wanted more than like 5 to 7 things. This is almost 2 pages full of really, really good stuff. So we whittled them down to our top 5,
yes,
as well as a bunch of honorable mentions. So before we get into our top 5s, let's just kind of briefly talk about our honorable mentions, things that we're looking forward to, and also the most important things on the list, the ones that we think are going to sell the best.
Oh yeah.
So if you're willing to stand in line and get them, we want to make sure that you're aware that these titles exist and that we will have them in the store at quantities that we assume will sell. So I'm just going to kind of go down the list here. You go ahead and start with some of your honorable mentions while I'm kind of looking through here to see what some of the bigger titles are that people are going to be out for.
Well, my honorable mentions might not be what people get extremely excited for because my tastes are just strange compared to, your just average record customer. Being that I've just done this for so long, and I used to famously say when I started working here and people would ask me, what kind of music are you into? I'd say, I hate everything, because I'm just a harsh critic. But years and years of doing this, there's just a lot of the stuff that people would assume I'm excited for, I'm not. Stuff that I get excited for, they're just surprised. My honorable mentions, I would say there's a few. But it's not so much what people would be into outside of just my personal tastes. I've been meaning to get into Dr. John. Mm-hmm. I've heard a few Dr. John songs from the 70s and just kind of got, like, it just, whoa, what is that?
Like that New Orleans funk.
Yes, and people have covered his stuff, and some of my favorite songs I found out, oh, well, those were originally his. Mm-hmm. So there's a Dr. John collection coming out for Record Store Day. I think it's like essentially a singles collection, and I haven't even looked to see what's on it, but I'm definitely considering picking it up because I feel like if you're trying to get into somebody like that, if you've heard things about them, there's going to be a Record Store Day collection come along, and that's a good way to go.
Yeah. I'll throw in one of mine. One of my honorable mentions is the Sonic Youth set that they have coming out. It's the greatest hits kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Perfect for somebody like me that my brother was really big into Sonic Youth, and it was a little too out there for me when I was younger. But as I've gotten older, I've liked more challenging music. I listen mostly these days. I listen to bands like Flaming Lips and Primus. Mm-hmm. So Sonic Youth seems like the natural progression.
Oh yeah.
So I want to start and kind of dip my toes in the hits to make sure before I start buying the albums, as it were. So
no, it should be a good one.
Yeah, oh yeah, and they always sound really good. They put a lot of care into
mm-hmm.
the Record Store Day audio file or audio quality. So give me another one.
Well, that's Sonic Youth. It looked like in the description that it was curated by just like a hodgepodge of people that were some famous people that you'd expect that would know the scene and that music, but then there were just fans, like super fans, people that I didn't expect to see on there. So what they pick for that collection should be interesting, because if it's super fans, they're going to pick the good ones.
Yeah, that was like when I first got into Primus, my friend Jared, who I hope to interview one day, made me a thing of B-sides. Songs like you know, the A-sides are the hits and all that, but here's the good stuff.
Yeah.
And while I still I like that it took me a while longer to get into that because, you know, the ones that you know are obviously the ones you're going to gravitate to when you want to hear a band. This was back when I was still trying to get into vinyl again and getting into full albums and not just listening to what the radio tells you to listen to. You know, when you want to sit down and have a challenging listen from beginning to end, both sides of an album, or all four sides, or whatever it may be. So that's my tangent. And by the way, there is a Primus release on this list, which I'm sure we'll talk about here in just a few minutes. But go ahead with your next honorable mention.
The next one I would mention would be Susie and the Banshees. Susie and the Banshees, I absolutely love. Pretty much anything of theirs I've ever heard, I've been into. And it's another artist that you almost never find in the wild. If you're just looking through used records, you're probably not going to find too many of their albums. So anytime I see somebody like that on a record store day list, it's like, oh, well, there it is. You're not going to get another chance to grab one of these, so it should be a good one.
Yeah, that's what I love about the list this year, is there seems to be more of a focus on exclusives than first releases, meaning it would come out again later. There's a lot of things that you're only going to be able to get on Record Store Day this year, and that's the kind of things that I really gravitate towards, because if you don't get them on Record Store Day, sometimes they go up to crazy amount in value, or, you know, sometimes you get lucky and you can get something that we had to pay $20-$30 for, and then a month from down the road you can get it online for $6 or whatever. And I have a few of those in my collection. And,
me too.
And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, things go up and down, and who knows, in 5 years it may be worth $100 again. But you know, we don't always buy stuff for the value. But it does kind of sometimes sting when you know that you pay $49.99 for an album that now you can buy for under $10 shipped to your door. So you just never know. So go into Record Store Day and get the things that you want. Don't worry about if it's going to go up or down. It's all a game. It's like trading cards. Values will go up and down for eternity. It's not worth anything until somebody buys it for the price that people are asking for.
And this is stuff you can't get at Walmart. You can't go on Amazon and just order this stuff before it comes out. You've got to go to a mom and pop shop. You've got to support local business if you want these titles, at least if you want them at a reasonable price, because chances are, if you're sleeping on this stuff, if you think you might want something but you just don't feel like going today, you may regret it, because like he said, down the road some of this stuff goes up in price. You try to buy one on eBay and it just kind of goes nuts. Sometimes people even fist fight in stores for some of these titles because they're selling them on eBay before they even have them in hand.
Yeah. One of my strongest rules is I know some of the flippers in town, and if I see anything that looks nefarious or shady, I will not sell to you. I literally will, you know, it's my right to decide to offer service or not. And if I see somebody that I know is an internet flipper coming to my store for Record Store Day, and then they bring their kid or their wife or their next door neighbor or anything that they're trying to get more than one title of, I'm just going to politely and quietly decline your service. And that's just the way that, as a business owner, that's how I choose to run my store, because I want you to respect the people in line, because they waited just as long as you. You're no more special than anybody else when it comes to Record Store Day. Everybody should be able to get the thing that they're after if they put in the work to get it. Getting off my soapbox, my next honorable mention would be the, I have so many, my goodness. Where do I go? Okay, honorable mention, let's say Collective Soul's Dosage. Okay, so I collect everything Collective Soul. I have everything so far that they've re-released on vinyl. Dosage is not like their best album, or even an album I even know the words to even one song, but I'm going to continue buying them because it's a band that I collect. And that's pretty much all I have to say about that.
That's a good feeling, though, when you are that fanatical about an artist and you're collecting their works. You want what they put out there, and there's just one that you don't have, that it's impossible to get, and then you see that Record Store Day list, you see that title, and like, oh, there's a hole in the collection, it's going to get filled. That is great.
Yes, it is. All right, your turn.
Another really good introductory type album, if you're looking for something, by Chris Chris Isaak's stuff has been traditionally very difficult to find on vinyl. And I know a couple years ago, there was a release of his most famous album, Heart-Shaped World. It was what the record companies call Record Store Day Essentials, RSD Essentials. It wasn't an official Record Store Day title, but only indie stores could get them. And they were available for a while, and then they were just gone. I know we got in a bunch, because I'm a big fan of that album, so I tried to get in a bunch. And then once they were sold, they were sold. And they haven't, I don't think they've done a regular reissue of that since then. So there's a Chris Isaak release on there that is his tribute to Sun Records. And it's him doing a lot of that traditional country rockabilly kind of sound.
Which would be perfect for his voice. He has always had that almost Elvis-y persona to him.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't he play Elvis in the movie True Romance? Do you remember? Was he the Elvis in the background? I don't know if he was or not. But if not, he would have been a perfect casting choice for Quentin Tarantino. All right, my next honorable mention, I don't know. Okay, I'm just going to ramble off a couple, and then I'll have you ramble off a couple. There's a few I don't know anything about, but I'm going to get them to take a chance on them. Mm-hmm. Kill the Hippies, Kill Yourself. It's a 1978 to 1980 punk compilation.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
I purposely am not looking it up. I'm not looking at the artist. Mm-hmm. I just want to buy it, and I want to spin it on vinyl, and I want to read the liner notes while it's spinning. Yeah. I'm almost like getting chills thinking about it. I'm so excited for that one. I'm a big fan of punk rock, and especially discovering punk that I've never heard, because there's so much punk that we haven't heard, because unless you make it mainstream, you don't know it. Mm-hmm. At least we don't here in the Mid-Ohio Valley. I mean, we grew up being told to listen to Green Day. Green Day is what we knew.
Whatever was on the radio at the time.
Whatever was on the radio. Paramore, I'm not a big fan of Paramore, but they are the ambassadors for Record Store Day. Mm-hmm. And the reason I'm excited for this release is because they just left their record deal. They closed their record deal. They left the record label. They are officially releasing an album by themselves now. They are officially an indie band again. Mm-hmm. And I think that's pretty cool. So I recommend checking out that one. Gil Scott-Heron, he's kind of like a beatnik poet. Not really rap, but it's more like beatnik poetry. I have several of his albums. The Revolution Will Not Be Televised. That's get that compilation. I don't know Winter in America. I'm again holding off hearing anything by him until I get it on vinyl. The Death Cab for Cutie live at Shadowbox. Big indie rock Death Cab fan over here. Just another one to add to the collection. I don't know how it's going to sound, because I kind of stopped listening to the band after Chris Wallow left, who was a big part of their production and their sound. But I'm kind of excited to check that one out. And then there are some things that are Record Store Day first releases, basically reissues of albums that we've been excited for, or audiophile releases. One for me would be the Buena Vista Social Club.
Oh yeah, that's going to be cool.
I have that on CD, and I'm kind of excited just to sit down and have it on vinyl. And then there's one that I don't know anything about. It's called Snake Eyes 100 Gex. It is
100 Gex.
I don't listen to a lot of rap. If it is rap, I don't even know. But it is a weed-shaped picture disc.
Yes.
I got it for the store. I'm not going to buy it or anything. It's not for me. But I just think it's the perfect day to release something that weird and
there's going to be a few like that.
And then quickly going down the list, The Hives releasing Black and White. It's got that song Tick 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 Boom on it. That's kind of a cool one to have in your collection. Jenny Lewis has a picture disc coming out of a song from her latest album called Puppy in a Truck. Again, something that I don't really need, because I have the album, but I collect anything Jenny Lewis. She's what I call my spirit animal. Mm-hmm. She's one of the most raw songwriters. Like, she cuts you to the core. As a songwriter. Super Furry Animals has a B-sides collection for Fuzzy Logic coming. Mm-hmm. Joe Strummer, an album that I'm not familiar with, because I kind of stopped at Streetcore.
It's good.
It's good? Okay, I'm excited.
That's on my top 5.
It will be something that I pick up. Paper Kites, they are an Australian indie pop rock band that I'm a big fan of. Murder Was the Case soundtracks, Snoop Dogg on it.
Yes.
And then one more I'll throw out, and then I'm going to let you just ramble off your list. I don't know much about it. I did listen to the album last night. Bear Jr., the album is Butte. It is like early 90s indie rock, folk rock. Early 90s, like Gin Blossoms, basically. Maybe a little harder than Gin Blossoms.
It's a good sound.
But yeah, I'm excited to check that one on Record Store Day. Now, go ahead and ramble off your list before we start our top 5s.
The only other thing I had as an honorable mention was the Motorhead release, and that's because I'm of an opinion that any Motorhead is good Motorhead. So I didn't even give it that heavy a look. I just said, oh, there's Motorhead. Can't go wrong with Motorhead. But there's a lot of stuff that I'm excited for, not necessarily personally, but just for the people that I know are going to be into it. There's stuff like Eric Carr, formerly of Kiss. Eric Carr has put out, they've put out an Eric Carr release the last, I believe,
the last
two record store days. And they were ones that I feel like a lot of people underestimated the demand for those, because the first one they put out, the record and the CD, it sold out so fast that they did it again last record store day, Black Friday, and
it's a picture disc this time though.
Yeah, and got it in and got in extras, knowing the demand would be there. Sold out not necessarily immediately this time because I got extras, but people go nuts for that stuff. And of course, Noah Kahan.
Is that how you say it, Kahan?
I meant to actually look up on Saturday Night Live the performance they did to see if the presenter pronounced his name Kahan, and
I say Kahan, and I probably look like a complete idiot, and I don't care. I don't know. I've never even heard a song by him yet, but he tells
good.
well.
Yeah, he was good. My wife loves SNL, so we watch SNL every weekend, and he was the musical guest in December, I think like mid-December, and I had never heard him before. I just knew that Black Friday Record Store Day, a lot of people waited to the last minute to ask for it, and maybe they didn't produce enough of them because nobody got them. Yeah. And after I heard the name and then saw him on SNL, I was like, well, I better pay attention to this because people seem to love this guy. Yeah. And he was great. It was good.
What I heard about that release from at least, I don't know if we have the same person or not.
I don't believe so.
Told me that when they produced the album, they had completely not known the level of popularity that he would have by the time that the record store day happened. And at the time, I had never heard of him. One person requested it, I got one copy. And then an email went around saying, go ahead and take pre-orders for that album because we promise that we'll have it in production right after record store day and you'll be able to fulfill all those orders. Well, if you go to firstcityrecordstore.com or any other record store, you'll notice that album is still up for pre-order. But it's it's on colored vinyl, and they did make right on their promise that it is up for pre-order and it is coming, and we do have several coming. I'm sure you're going to have several here.
Most definitely.
And it was the one that we all kind of slept on, and we're not sleeping on Eric. What's his name? Noah Kahan.
And this record store day, he's doing one with Olivia Rodrigo.
Another late announcement too. That one really took my budget up several $100s because luckily it was a 7-inch and it wasn't like a $20, $30 2LP weird release. It's just a 7-inch, but it's the padding that we need to get the Taylor Swift crowd in the door. So as you know, when Taylor Swift has a record store day release, at least at our store last year for the Long Pond EP, we had a gaggle of college kids and young adults camping from midnight on to get that. First 10 people in the door got my copies. Again, it was my first record store day last year. I completely underestimated the Swifties. Never again. That's why we have Taylor Swift parties. That's why we do all kinds of fun stuff for Taylor Swift, because not only is there a massive community for it, but it brings out the best in people, because the community is probably the nicest and best part of the vinyl collecting community. I've never seen one fight at a Taylor Swift event at my store.
And you guys have been doing such a good job with those. Every time I see that you've done one, that there's a big crowd, the people look super happy, and I've heard good things.
I can't take any credit for the Taylor Swift party. I'm the financier of buying the records, but Rebecca, she is the person. Okay, so she's our Taylor Swift cosplayer, and her husband dresses up as Travis Kelce. God bless him. What an amazing husband, right? So anyways, she basically puts on the event. She bought all the beads for the bead making thing, did the questions for the trivia thing. I supplied the place, the records, the sound system, and basically she was like, honey, we need more paper towels, go. She basically just pointed and shot, and she knew she was in control, because I don't know what to do with a room full of teenage girls, up to middle-aged women. It was a varied crowd, but that was the majority of the crowd. I have 4 boys, so me, it's just like you want to go outside and ride bikes and play in the mud, So it was nice. It was nice to have her in charge. So for this one that we have coming up for the Tortured Poets, which I'm sure again you guys are going to have a crap ton of them.
Most likely.
We are going to at the party. I haven't talked to her in a while, but I think we're going to have like a black and white semi-formal theme. We also have shirts up for pre-order at firstcityrecordstore.com, exclusive shirts that are on a timed pre-order for that event. If you want one of the shirts and says you were there for the Tortured Poets release party at First City Records, you have to get the pre-order. It's on the website, First City Record Store, and the pre-orders tab. Get a shirt for the event. It'll be a lot of fun. We have a lot of events that were in the works planning. I'm letting her take care of it all, and I'm just going to announce it as I know more. But there's no Taylor Swift released for this record store day, but Olivia Rodrigo mixed with Noah Kaye is kind of like a Taylor Swift light.
Oh yeah,
it's like
Taylor
it
Swift
fills
adjacent.
the void of having that big wow release for like the casual vinyl fan. Looking at my list here, the 1975 had a lot of requests.
Oh yeah.
South Park. Okay, so the South Park release is from their 25th anniversary live concert, which is mostly a Primus and Ween concert with songs from South Park mixed in. What would Brian Boitano do? What's the Mr. Mackey song? It's all okay.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
The bad words, where it's bad, don't say the F word kind of thing. You shouldn't say no. Dead Milkman, The Cure.
Oh yeah.
Let's see here. What else was Fleetwood Mac Picture Disc?
That's gonna be a big one.
The Death Cab for Cutie. I had quite a few. Olivia Rodrigo, Noah Kaye. I had 15 requests in a matter of minutes.
Yep.
I ordered 25. I'm hoping that'll be enough. You never know. Poppy, who I don't know a lot about, but that's another one. Those seem to be the biggest releases. And of course, The Doors. The Doors have a vinyl live album and a CD version as well. All right. Do you have anything else you want to talk about, or you want to jump into our top 5s?
The big ones that I'm looking forward to just seeing how many people are excited for. At the Drive-In. There's an At the Drive-In reissue. It's one of their best albums. That's going to be a good one. Pearl Jam. I wondered when the new Pearl Jam was announced why there wasn't an indie record store variant.
Yeah,
there was just black vinyl, and I thought, well, that's strange.
Doesn't sound like that for them.
It's Pearl Jam.
Yeah.
But then I look at the record store day list. There's the variant. It's going to be a record store day release.
I'm thinking about canceling my black pre-orders, except for the ones that have already sold, and then just doubling up on the record store day collared vinyl version.
The price, I don't think, is any different.
They're the same price for us. I don't know about the retail, but it seems to make the most sense. I mean, if it's going to be the same album, most people like the collared version.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know. Probably get a little bit of both, but I can. Yeah, the Pearl Jam release. I forgot to talk about that one. Is anytime they put out a new album, there's always going to be a lot of hype behind it, especially
Most
around
definitely.
Record Store Day, because they were an ambassador at one point, weren't they?
Oh yeah.
And they're big into their fan base as
They
well.
have always been supporters of vinyl all the way back to the 90s. Even when people were moving away from vinyl, they put out Vitology. And if you pay attention to the words in that album,
In the Black Circle. Right?
very vinyl centric. They've always been that way.
And last question I got for you. So The Cure puts out I think it's always a picture disc, right, of their album. What is the world going to do when they reach the end of their discography?
That's another thing that I'm looking forward to seeing people excited for, because we've got customers, I'm sure you do as well, who they specifically collect the picture disc record store day Cure releases, and it's just reassuring every time we get a new list to see, oh, there it is, a Cure release, picture disc. People are gonna be excited.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to let you roll into your number 5 first. And remember, you guys get a chance to vote on this on First City Podcast on Facebook. Once the episode goes live, I will probably wait until Wednesday evening to put up the poll, so you guys get a little chance to listen to the podcast. We're going to stump for our top 5, and you guys can vote on who do you think has the better top 5 list for Record Store Day, and the winner will have bragging rights until next Record Store Day, or until the next time we do another one of these high fidelity battle top 5 kind of things. It'll be First City Records versus the Sound Exchange, which is a thing that people think existed. It doesn't.
Not really.
Not really. You know, I may drive sales. I don't know. Maybe we should do a celebrity deathmatch kind of thing. I don't know. But go right ahead and do your top 5.
So my number 5 is Neil Young, 3, 2, 1, Effin' Up. And it's not specific to that album. It's really just that I've been on a big Neil Young kick for the past few months, thanks to one of my regular customers, Major Tom. He is always... the guy's like a walking music encyclopedia. He knows way too much about...
Is it the guy that I know?
Yes.
Okay. His name is Tom, though.
Yes. So Major Tom will always recommend certain things that are either reissues or, in this case, something that was heavily bootlegged back in the 70s or 80s. He'll immediately know that the version coming out is super high quality and worth having, and he'll usually come in and give me a thumbs up or thumbs down about it. And the last thing that came out was Neil Young Doom, which was an alternate version of Zuma, which Neil Young Crazy Horse Zuma, fantastic album. And he recommended that one, and at the time he said, listen to this box set, and he loaned me the Archives box sets 1 and 2, and it took me 2 whole shifts to listen to those box sets, being that they are 8 and 10 disc respectively.
Yeah.
But it set me off on a big Neil Young kick, and this Neil Young release, the album I'm not going to say the name of this time.
Thank you.
But it is Neil with Crazy Horse, a recent incarnation of Crazy Horse, and the track listing looks killer. So I haven't looked deeply into what this album is, but knowing what I just said, I know I'm going to dig it.
As an audiophile, Neil Young had like a streaming service for high-end audio, and he's always put extra effort into the sound quality of all of his releases. So this will definitely be one if you are one of those people that collect releases, not specifically for the artist, but for the sound quality. If you have like one of those super high-end sound setups, definitely be one that you want to at least listen to. So that's a great number 5. But my number 5 is one that I had never heard of, a band that I had never heard of, and a song I had never heard until 2 days ago. I had somebody request this album, and I was like, I've never heard of this, and the artwork was interesting. So I looked up the song on Spotify and checked it out. It is actually a band called Lettuce, and it's one song, and it's like 45 minutes long, spread out over 2 LPs. So my guess is it's either at 45 RPM or it's spread out so far that it's going to be a super good audiophile sounding album as well. So Lettuce is my number 5, and it is a 45-minute song, and it's like a very slow groove, funk kind of groove that you can get down to with a hip-hop, like
cool.
low-end trip-hop kind of beat in the background with a very good funk kind of vibe to it. And I played it in the store the other day, and I had a friend who's not really into that kind of thing. It's like, dude, this is like perfect record store music. It's like you can get work done. It's great background music, and it just drones and goes on and on and on for like 45 minutes over the course of the whole album. So that's my number 5. It's pretty interesting. And moving on to number 4.
Number 4. My number 4 is one that we mentioned earlier. It is Joe Strummer and the Mescaleros. It's, I believe, the first album that he released with the Mescaleros band, rock art and X-ray style. I got into his Mescaleros stuff when Streetcore came out.
Streetcore is my number
So
99
good.
out of 100 favorite albums of all time.
So good. That album, just start to finish. I never really looked into... I mean, I'd heard a couple songs of what he did with the Mescaleros before that, but I never really delved into it until, once again, Major Tom. There was a Joe Strummer box set that came out about a year or 2 ago that was Joe Strummer 002, the Mescaleros Years. And it was this album we're talking about now, which was the first that he did with the Mescaleros. Then one called Global A Go-Go that came out next, and then Streetcore. And Major Tom bought that box set and then loaned it to me, and I got a chance to do a deep dive into those first 2 Mescaleros albums, and they're top notch. They're not quite the level of Streetcore, but they might as well be. They're that good. So even though I have since, of course, bought that box set, There could be something different about this one. I haven't looked into it, but I'll probably end up buying it, even though I own it in the box set, because it's that good. It is that good.
Good choice. Like I said, Street Core is my number 99 out of 100 favorite album of all time, which is something that we'll actually do later on down the road. We'll actually count down our favorite albums of all time on a different episode. But I'm going to go ahead and do my number 4. My original number 4 was Sonic Youth, but I moved it to the honorable mention section because I chose a different one for my number 4, and it was because I didn't know what it was, and I listened to it last night while I was working on some website stuff. It is Boogie Down Productions' Edutainment, I think is how you pronounce it.
Oh yeah.
Edutainment. If you like early 90s rap, that's the only rap I really listen to, like Warren G, Dr. Dre, Ice Cube. That's what I get down with, this early 90s rap. And it's very political, it's very
it's cerebral. It's extremely well written stuff. This is my number 2. This Boogie Down Productions, KRS-One. I got into his solo stuff, but I hadn't really delved into his earlier material. With Boogie Down Productions, I knew a couple songs, and then they started doing some reissues. And Edutainment was one that I really wanted, but there wasn't a reissue, and then I saw it on this list, and Love Is Gonna Get Ya. Look up that track. Next level.
If that album has been so far down the reissue list, I bet the other ones that were reissued are even better, and I'm really excited to get into them. But I'm going to actually hold off on listening to any more until after I've kind of absorbed this one. And I want to start here and then go back and see what else he has to offer. So
it's a good one. You're gonna dig it for sure.
And I don't listen to a lot of rap, and I actually sat down and enjoyed and listened to that entire album without ever thinking, man, I should move on to something else. That doesn't happen with me very often with my ADHD. So, number 3.
My number 3 is it's such a cop out. Sisters of Mercy. I'm a huge fan of Andrew Eldritch and the Sisters of Mercy. I've loved every single thing I've ever got of theirs. So it didn't take me too long, but I tracked down all their albums when they were reissued. Got a couple mo-fis. They sound killer. But now every time there's a record store day release that they've done, whether I have the songs or not, I still buy them because you just never see their stuff anywhere.
Yeah. Except for on Record Store Day, it seems like. I've never had anything traded in by them except for the Record Store Day title from last year.
Right.
The black and purple cover.
They did a BBC Sessions, one of the Record Store Days last year, and if you're familiar with the BBC Sessions material, any artist that puts it out, sound quality is going to be off the charts. It was no exception to that rule. And this one, I believe, is going to be a reprinting of their first 2 EPs combined together. And early stuff, later stuff, doesn't matter. If you're into the Sisters, you're gonna be into this.
All right, and now my number 3 is actually kind of a 2-parter. This artist is releasing 2 different releases for Record Store Day this year, and it's kind of a new artist for me. I discovered Gene Clark recently.
Oh yeah.
And I've been deep diving and listening to everything that I could possibly listen to. We have several albums of him in the store. He's releasing 2, and this is the Lost Studio Sessions, 1964 to 82, and No Other Sessions. But No Other is his most famous, I would assume, album. It's listed as psychedelic country rock. I don't know. It just seems like country rock to me, but
it's a little psychedelic.
It's a little bit out there in comparison to just his other stuff. And then I think it's going to be like more of like a B-sides. The No Other Sessions, I assume it's like the tracks that didn't make it, or maybe tracks that were cut off for one reason or another. But yeah, my number 3 is the Gene Clark reissues. Actually, I would assume that they're not reissues. I would assume that the Lost Sessions and the Other Sessions is stuff that we've never heard before. So I've been on a Gene Clark kick, similar to your kick with Neil Young. So that's my number 3.
Okay.
Were you on the radio?
I'm recording for the radio.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're talking about Record Store Day and our top 5 lists and stuff like that.
I can have Record Store Day at my house.
You know, it's Record Store Day every day if you let it be.
Yes.
All right, we're going to move on to Elmer's number 2.
Of course, my number 2 is one that we've already talked about, the Boogie Down Productions Edutainment.
Okay.
But,
Do you have anything else you want to add about it?
Just that you shouldn't sleep on it if you're into old school hip hop stuff, because it is a prime example of turn of the 80s into 90s, East Coast, very well written, lyrical, heavy mental stuff. It is definitely worth checking out.
It's not dad rap.
No.
My number 2, G Love and Special Sauce's debut album.
Yeah.
Okay, I met G Love last summer. He was the third opener for Dispatch at a concert I was taking my wife to, and then he was just kind of milling around, and we hung out a little bit, talked, and he autographed a record for me, and that I had got from the merch booth, and just super cool guy. This is the debut album by him. I believe it's never been on vinyl before.
Oh, nice.
And there are like alternative takes and bonus tracks, I believe, included in this one as well. I don't
love
know a
it when
lot
they do
about
that.
it, but yeah, my number 2. If you don't know G Love is kind of like, I don't want to say he's a white rapper, but back in the day, that's kind of what he was going for. But now he's kind of a more chilled out, southern fried blues. Mm-hmm. But it's a lot of white boy rap, hip hop with a harmonica and an acoustic guitar. If that sounds like something you'd be into, check out G Love.
Definitely.
If you want to hear a track off of that specific album, the best one on there is Cold Beverage.
Oh, yeah.
I like cold beverage, yeah. That's my jam. I don't listen to a lot of like rap and stuff, but the 2 out of the 5 on my list now are of that genre. So
That'll get you.
All right, I'm going to do a little drum roll for you, and your number 1 for Record Store Day.
My number 1 is unexpected. Unexpected by me, anyway. I've looked over many a Record Store Day list in the decade, I think, no, more than a decade that we've been participating here at Sound Exchange in Record Store Day. And usually I look over the list, my eyes gravitate to something gothy or something 80s new wave or indie rock from the 90s, but it's rare that it's something country. Not to say that I'm not into country music, it's rare that is the thing I'm most excited for.
You're just a little bit country and a little bit, or a lot more rock.
Most definitely. But yeah, Dwight Yoakam.
The Yoke.
Yoakam.
The Yoke, all right.
There is a Dwight Yoakam box set of his 80s material, plus, and this is the most important part, if you know anything about his catalog, a rarities and B-sides collection included. It's not easy to find Dwight Yoakam records in the wild. I have been dealing with used records in the store for 20 years, and I think we've only had half a dozen Dwight Yoakam records traded in
It's always the same one. It's always the same one.
But I immediately got excited for this box set. I'll end up playing Dwight Yoakam, and either my wife will give me weird looks, or people in the store will think that's out of place, that's what I'm listening to. But if you know my taste, it's kind of interesting to look at Dwight Yoakam as the Morrissey of country music. He's got a unique kind of nasally voice. He doesn't change for anybody, and his songwriting is top notch. So if you like the Smiths and want to get into country, try some 80s Dwight Yoakam.
When I think nasally in country, I'm immediately thinking Weird Al gone country.
Pretty much. But yeah, the Dwight Yoakam box set.
Okay, and so yeah, the Yoke is number 1. I wasn't expecting to hear.
I'm looking forward to it.
Really.
I don't have enough Dwight Yoakam on vinyl. I think I've only got 3, maybe 2. That's more than I ever expected to find. But this box set is definitely going to have stuff I need.
Okay, and we're going to close out the top 5 list with my number 1,
Here we go.
which is something we've already talked about: the South Park live concert,
yeah.
25th anniversary live concert featuring Primus and Ween. Primus being my favorite band nowadays. Not a lot left to say about that. It's on like a bluish denim towely collared vinyl, if you will. And yeah, and Primus is actually touring with Coheed and Cambria this year, and they're making a stop in Pittsburgh, Blossom, and at Columbus, wherever. So, and that's all within a 3-day span or a 4-day span. I'm thinking about hitting all 3. Just don't tell my wife yet, because I haven't broke the news to her. But that's my big summer plan. So yeah, the South Park set is my number 1.
Oh, that's going to be a good one.
It's either 2 or 3 LPs. I'm thinking it's 3 LPs. It's a nice long set. And like I said, it has some Primus songs, some Ween songs. I know that Primus and Ween play together. And anytime Dean Ween is on the same stage as Les Claypool, magic is going to happen. They play the Mollusk on this album together.
Oh.
I'm holding off to hear that one on vinyl, but because I looked at the track list and I've watched the show in parts. I didn't watch the whole thing, but and then there's a lot of South Park songs that they do together, and just them being silly together on stage with Matt and Trey and the backup singers. It was a very fun little show, and it's something kitschy that I want to add to my Primus collection, because if you collect Primus, you gotta catch them all. So, do you have anything else you want to talk about before we wrap it up?
I don't remember looking, because I haven't looked over the list as much as I need to. But was the South Park a zoetrope?
No, this is colored.
I've noticed, at first I thought that the George Harrison releases were zoetropes, which, if you haven't seen a zoetrope picture disc record in action, look them up on YouTube. A lot of people don't realize these are out there. Like, we've got one right now that's the soundtrack to Disney's Frozen.
Yeah.
And
Casey Musgraves has a really nice one.
yeah, when they spin, the picture on the record appears animated, which is really cool. I mean, it's kind of a gimmick, it's kind of silly, but when you see one in action, it's just like, oh, that's cool.
Nightmare Before
can't
Christmas.
deny it.
Nightmare Before Christmas that came out this past year has that. I actually wrote that down in my notes. This is the year of the zoetrope. It seems like every 5th release is zoetropic.
There's quite a few of them on the list I noticed today.
So let me see here. I'm just going to kind of run down the other things we didn't talk about. Lily Allen, Blur, Park Life, zoetropic.
Yep. I just
Bottle Rockets, first time on vinyl.
Bottle Rockets.
Captain Beefheart. Captain Beefheart has something coming out again. De La Soul live at Tramps in '96.
Gotta love De La.
Nobody's mentioned the Dead Milkmen, have they? I don't know if we talked about that.
I don't think so, but it's going to be a big one.
Yes, Bucky Fellini. It's coming out. Another one that almost made my top 5, Faces, the BBC sessions. Anything early Rod Stewart. I just love that gravel, smoky voice. Make fun of you if you will, but I grew up with VH1, not MTV, so I have an affinity for Rod Stewart and Meatloaf. Garbage has a new 4-song EP out called Lie to Me. Groovy Ghoulies, Howlin' Wolf, had a lot of people asking for Howlin' Wolf, some blues. Memphis Slim, Sonny Boy, and Matt Guitar Murphy on a revised 1963 Blues Fest concert, remastered. I listened to the original non-remastered and it sounds like a tin can. I want this one just to see or to hear if it's better than that. If they call it remastered, it better sound better than that, because the one on Spotify, it sounds horrible. And I forgot to mention it at Rocky Horror, the original demo tapes by Richard O'Brien from the Rocky Horror soundtrack.
Oh, I didn't even see that.
That was meant to be in my top 5. I think I overlooked it, and that is definitely something I'm picking up. The Rocky Horror OG demo tapes.
That's got your name written on it.
It really does. On the backside here, Sonic Youth, Joe Strummer, Super Free, Unwritten Law, Blue Room, Blue Vinyl 30th anniversary, kind of a funky rock album. Let's see here. Oh, and the Zappa. Every year they seem to put out something for Zappa.
Zappa for President.
Zappa for President, which I learned is kind of like a compilation of his political songs. I don't know if that one's for me or not, because I hate politics. It puts me in a bad headspace.
He's got a way of making it interesting, though.
If I don't listen to the lyrics. But like he's another one of those guys in that realm of difficult listens. That, I listen
an
to
acquired
music.
taste.
Yeah, I listen to music for a living. Basically, all day long I have to listen to what we want to sell. So when I go home, I want to listen to challenging things that like hurt my brain, that you have to try to find things that you can like about songs. And Zappa has become one of my new challenges, if you will. So we're going to go ahead and sign off. Thank you to Mr. Elmer Gorelli
thanks for having me.
You know what? This was the most fun that we've had so far on this podcast, and I definitely want to do this as frequently as I can. Not just on Record Store Day. Please come back. We can do this. I'd love to do it every day if I could, because this is way more fun than talking to myself.
Oh yeah, I'm into it for sure.
Can't wait to have you back. Good seeing you, my old friend, and best of luck to Sound Exchange on Record Store Day. And we will see you guys next week, next Wednesday, for the next episode on the podcast. I am working on an in-store interview with Jimmy avocados. I want to get down there and taste some of his food. We're going to do a video podcast on that one. Interview Jimmy about his all of the stuff that he's got going on there, his new location, his food truck, and he's trying to start a farmer's market down in his neck of the woods at the bottom of near the bottom of Market Street. There, I want to find out all about that on the next episode, if that, if we can. Otherwise, follow the Facebook at First City Podcast, and we will talk to you then, and be watching for what is coming up next. Y'all have a great day.
Yeah, that was awesome. I think that turned out really.
That wasn't just banter. That was witty banter.
That was our first time.
Yeah, I know.